All right, thanks for coming back. This is Jim Hahn with Real Life Rosary, and again, this is our Rosary workshop. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to make the knot. That's what we just call it, the knot. The knot is sometimes called the barrel knot or the fisherman's knot, and it's the knot that we use for every single bead when we're making one of our rosaries. So it doesn't matter whether it's an Our Father bead, a Hail Mary bead, even the centerpiece bead where we join the pieces together, the cross for the end of the rosary, they're all exactly the same bead. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make that bead, because once you have that part of it mastered, you can make just about any sort of chaplet, rosary, necklace, whatever you want to do with these beads. And this is a large rope, just to kind of give you some more detail of this knot, to get an idea of what it looks like. This is what we use for our giant wall rosary, which you can see one of them right here. Again, the exact same knot that we use for the small rosaries is for the large rosary. So I'm going to teach you how to make that knot. Now, it's not easy to do it this way, me opposed to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip the camera around here shortly. And so you're going to be able to see what I see with my hands and be able to see how I make these knots from my point of view, which makes it easier to learn how to make the knots. So enjoy the rest of this video. I'll be back with you before we close out, but we're going to make a bunch of these knots today, get really good at it before we move on to actually making products like the rosary or the chaplets. So here we go. Let's give it a shot. Okay, now that we've switched cameras, you can see some of the tools of the trade a little bit better, a little closer up. So I have my tape, a lighter, the rosary tool, and maybe you can see that groove that's in there. There's a small groove that's right on the top of that. Scissors. I also have a large piece of rope that I use to make the giant wall rosaries. I'm going to use that to demonstrate the knot. A tool that I made that's similar to this, only just bigger for the giant rope. One thing I did want to do is just show you how I use this tape on the smaller twine. So all I do is cut off a piece of tape, maybe, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. And I place an edge of it on the twine. So hopefully you can see that. It's just on the edge. And then I just gently roll it around until I've used up all the tape. I just keep rolling it around, push on it real good. And then you can see I have that solid piece there to work with. Then I cut it like so. So then I have solid structured pieces of rope that I can use when I make my rosaries or my chaplets. So I just wanted to show that as well. So we're going to work on the knot. Like I said before, it's the fisherman's knot or the barrel knot. And to illustrate that, I think it's best to use this giant piece first, this giant piece of rope, as well as our tool. I think it just helps you see more clearly how this knot's being formed with the tool. So I'm right-handed, so I use my right hand to do all the active work. I use my left hand to do kind of the non-active work, just to holding the tool, holding the rope. So it might be a little bit different for you, but I wanted you to see what I see by doing the video this way. So I have my tool in my left hand. I also drape the rope there in my left hand. This is going to hold it, keep it from going anywhere. I'm going to scoot my hand up a little bit and give myself about a thumb space between this part of the tool and where the rope's going to go. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cross that groove that you can see right here, my fingers sliding through this part of the pipe. I'm going to cross that once. Then I'm going to make an X with my rope. So you can see that X. And it'll hold it there, but I'll just keep it tight. And then I'll do it again. I'm going to slide this forward just a little bit. And so that's my first knot, actually. So I've taken the rope, I've wrapped it over, and then wrapped it again. So I'll do that again. So again, I'm just holding with my left hand, taking the rope over the groove, making an X from the first time I went over to the next time, going over again. So now I have two pieces going over that first original piece that continues down here. Two wraps, that's what I use for a Hail Mary knot. And then I slide this through that groove. So you'll see that I'm going to slide This is my active end. This is the end that I'm going to keep making rosary knots with. All my beads are going to keep falling down here along my left hand where they're just being held. So I'll slide this through here, pull it all the way up through, and then I have my knot. So then I just gently pull that off of the tool, set it aside, and then pull both pieces to tighten it up and make the knot. So that's one. And I'll do it a couple more times, and then I'll also show you on the smaller twine. So we'll go ahead and just undo this. And I'll make it again. Okay, so we're going to do this again. We're going to make a couple more knots using this large piece of rope and our large tool, so you can see more clearly how the knot is made before I use the smaller normal number 36 twine. I like to use this big rope again just because I think it helps illustrate how the knot is made and how it's created, and just helps you to see that a little bit better. So again, since I'm right-handed, I'm going to keep the active side of my twine in my right hand, and then the left hand is just kind of the holder that holds the tool, and it holds the twine that I'm using. And you'll see that as I make the knots, they'll just go right here. They'll just keep sliding down here, and just they're already made. They just move on. They just go away. So first thing I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to cross over that groove, and then I'm going to make an X. And that X, if I hold it fairly tight, it'll stay right there without my thumb. And then I'm going to do that again. So I have two of them. So that's for a Hail Mary knot. If I wanted to make an Our Father knot, I would do two more, just double that size. But for right now, we're going to make the Hail Mary knot. So let me do it one more time so you can see that. So over the groove, making an X, going around again, and then I'm going to take my active end that I'm using, I'm going to slide it through the groove until I have my knot. I pull that off the tool, and then I work to tighten that up. Now you'll see that this knot that I've just made is going to slide down here, and I'm going to use my thumb to space the next knot. So again, I'm going to go over the groove, make my X, over again, and then I'll slide through. Okay, so now I have two knots. And I'm going to tighten that up. And this is nice here. You can, the knots are fairly flexible at first, so you can kind of scoot them around to the spacing that you want. So I'm going to scoot that into what I would normally do for a giant wall rosary, that kind of spacing. And then, so again, that knot's done, this knot's done. I make space. I make another one. Okay, again, one more time. Over the groove, make an X, wrap it around again, and then slide it through. And then I just pull it off of the tool and then work it to where I want it as far as tightness and spacing. So now we have these three large knots on this large piece of rope. So it's the same knot, whether it's for the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the giant rope, small twine, it's all the same knot. Now you can do this on your finger. You don't have to use a tool, but I prefer the tool, as I mentioned. It just makes things easier for me to work with. I'll show you how to make them on your finger if you prefer to try to do that. I know plenty of people who do, and it works out just as well. Again, I'm crossing over my finger, making an X, crossing over again, and this is kind of the tricky part with your finger, is pulling your finger out and working that through, and it's even more difficult on the smaller twine. but the same exact concept. So you're basically building a tunnel for the rope to slide through. So I'm going to do it one more time with the this large piece of rope, and then we'll switch to the smaller regular twine so you can see that as well. So for the knot, again, here's our groove. The rope's going to go over. I'm going to make an Our Father knot this time, so there'll be more wraps. Make my X, which holds the twine in place. Right, I can let go of everything. It'll hold it there because I have a little bit of tension with my right hand. Wrap it over again. That would be a Hail Mary. I do it 2 more times. This would be my Our Father knot. Same concept. Slide it through. Once I have that finished, slide it off of the tool and then work on tightening it up. Now this large rope tightens up a little differently than the twine, but you get the idea. So there's our knot for the Our Father. And again, once this knot's finished, it just slides down the tool, and I give some space, and I start my next one. I go over the groove, make my X. I'll do a Hail Mary this time. A smaller knot through the groove. Pull it off the tool. And so normally I would have more spacing between the Our Father and the Hail Mary for our giant wall rosary, but same concept. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at making these knots with the smaller twine, with the normal twine. Like I said, I just like to use this just to help demonstrate that knot real well. Take some time, go back and watch this over and over till you get that concept of making it go over the groove and then sliding it through. Once you master this knot, you can make just about anything, any kind of rosary, any kind of chaplet. All the other things that you'll see in the rest of the videos all depend on this knot and getting it right. So take your time, take a little piece of rope, a little piece of twine. Doesn't have to be a full piece like this. This is only 4 or 5 feet for my purposes. Normally it would be 70 feet to build a rope rosary like this. So just take small pieces and just practice. Cut off a foot and just mess with it and keep working on the knots, undo them until you get it down perfect, until you can get the spacing down. Okay. All right. So next we're going to work with the normal number 36 twine and how that looks, making it with the smaller tool. So let's move on to that. Okay, so we've done quite a few knots with the giant rosary making tool. Again, over the groove, a couple times around and through. So we've done that plenty of times. So hopefully you've got a good idea of how that's done. We're going to work on the smaller tool with the regular size twine now. So this is a rosary making tool that we get from Our Lady's Rosary Makers. You can Google that, Our Lady's Rosary Makers. They have their little thing on there, their little logo thing. We also sell them on our website. What makes this tool nice is that it's already fashioned with that groove. Some people will take umbrella pieces because they slide on one another. They're hollowed out like that, and they can make their own. You can do that. I like these. They're just already made. We just buy them by the hundreds, and because we go through a lot of them using these tools. So the groove makes it really nice and easy to make the knots. But again, I'm right-handed, so I'm using this as the active end, and I'm using my left hand to hold the tool and to hold the twine and the knots as I make them. So again, I'm going to hold my tool in my left hand like this. I'm going to make my twine go parallel in my hand as well. And then I'm going to cross over. So see, I'm using my thumb to hold some space here. And the reason I hold some space here is once I get my knot made, it allows me space to slide the twine through. So I use my thumb to reserve some space for that end piece to slide through there. So I'm going to try to bring this up a little bit. Hopefully it stays somewhat in focus. Maybe it's not going to. But we're going to go across the groove just like we did with the rope. And then we're going to make an X. And the same thing, I can take my thumb away from there because I have pressure here. I'm holding it with my other hand here, so it's holding pretty steady. I'm going to make another wrap, and so I have my Hail Mary knot. And then so I'm going to find the end here, and I'm going to slide that through. So my tape's come undone a little bit, so I'm just going to roll that and tighten it up a little bit. And so I'll slide that through, just like so. Then I'm going to pull it all the way through. So here's a little tip, a little trick when you're making your knots. Try to pull the rope through this slot as smoothly as possible. You see, I'm trying to line it up so there's very little friction, because what happens is when you are pulling this through and you have some friction, let's say I just pull it like this, you'll notice that the twine starts to twist up. You see that little twist there? And that gets to be a problem after you keep doing that for a while. It starts to really twist up your rosary. So make sure you have as little friction as possible. My thumb gives me the space to slide the end of the twine through later on. I cross over, then I make an X. I cross over again, and then I'm going to take my end of the twine. I'm going to find it. Here it is. And I'm going to slide it through that groove. And I'm going to try to pull it through with as little friction as possible. And you can see where the taping at the end comes in handy, because I'm not fighting trying to get a loose piece of twine or a flimsy piece of twine through there. I actually have something to push against. So I'm going to slide that off of the tool like that. And then I'm going to use my fingers like this, and I'm going to pull with this hand and push. So I'm pulling with these fingers and I'm pushing with these fingers. So pulling with these fingers here, this hand, or these 4 fingers, I'm kind of pulling the twine apart like this and pushing the knot together. And then I'll just tighten it up both ways until I have a good, nice, tight knot. Okay, and so now this is going to slide down. I'm going to use my thumb again to give me some space. Wrap over the groove, make an X. And again, I can kind of let go of that because I'm holding tension on it. Do it again. And then I'm just going to find my end of the twine and slide it through. And sometimes it won't slide all the way through like that, so I will just scoot that up a little bit, the knot up towards the end of the tool. So I'm going to pull that through. And now this, you want to get some spacing, good spacing in there. So for the Hail Marys, I leave probably about maybe a 1/4 of an inch of space in between. And I'll make an Our Father to show you how that looks like in the spacing. But again, get a small piece of twine like this and just practice making the knots, because once you get these knots perfected, you can make just about anything you want. So let's do an Our Father knot, which is 4. So I crossed over the groove. I made an X. You can see the X there. And then I'm going to go 3 more times. So there's 2, 3, and 4. So this is going to be a little bit larger knot. I'm going to slide it towards the end so I can have some space here to slide the end of my twine through. So I've found that. Slide it through. And then we're going to pull everything else through there. So I'm going to slide this off. And again, I'm going to keep the knot formed with these 4 fingers while I'm pulling with these. And then I'm going to work on it, getting the spacing right where I want it to be. So for the spacing between the Our Father and the Hail Mary at the beginning and the end of a decade, I usually make about a 1/2 inch spacing. And then so I would start again over the groove, an X, another wrap, so I have 2. Find the end and slide that through. And so you can see a little twist there. Not a big deal. You can straighten that out. Sometimes you might want to just give it a little flip to take that twist out of it. And so I'm off to the races again to start 10 more. So you can see that as I make these beads, they just keep sliding down alongside the tool. So then I make another one across the groove, make an X, another loop, and I can feel that twisting up a little bit. So I'll slide that through, give as least friction as I can. And I'm going to slide it off the end of my tool and then work on getting my spacing. So really the main goal is to get good at this knot. And if it helps to go back to the beginning of this video and watch the larger knots, the larger rope, go for it. But the knot is the key part of the rosary. It's the one that makes the beads, the Hail Marys, the Our Fathers, the cross, all the other things that we'll be making later on. You'll just want to just keep practicing and practicing this knot until you can do it basically without looking at it and have it look like a knot, make it look good. If it helps you, make the knots a little bit bigger, like the Our Father knots, just so you can get a good handle on those. Sometimes the smaller knots are a little bit more difficult. They tend to come apart as you're making them or pulling them off the tool. But just practice. So if you order twine from us, you usually get about 24 feet, 24 feet. Cut off 12 inches or 2 feet or so. You still have plenty. And just practice with that. Just keep practicing making these knots until you get good at the knots and good at the spacing. And then you can really go to town on making the rosaries. So in the next video, we'll work on making rosaries and how that's made and some tips and some tricks. But keep on practicing. That's just really what it takes, is a lot of practice. Again, over the groove, make an X, another loop, and then slide through. So if you need twine or need a tool, reach out to us. Visit the website, realliferosary.com. Happy to help you with that. So keep on practicing. If you have questions, let me know. Keep on watching the videos, and we'll see you shortly. Thanks. Okay, so I hope you found that instruction helpful on how to make the knots for the rosaries. We spent a lot of time on how to make these particular knots because that's the most important thing. I can't say that enough. Practice, practice, practice. Like I said, if you get twine from us or you get a big spool of it like these, cut some off, maybe 2 foot or so, and just start making those knots. Just start working on the knots. No pressure. Just take your time and figure that out. That's going to be the key thing, is working on the knots. Go back to the beginning of this video, watch it over and over until you get that feel for it, until you can make these knots in your sleep, until you can just make them without ever even looking at it. So hopefully that's helpful. We're going to move on now to making the rosary in the next video, some tips and some tricks on how to make that happen. We're going to assume that you already know how to make the knots, so if you don't, keep practicing. You'll get it. I promise you, you'll get it eventually. If you need twine, contact us, realliferosary.com. If you need tools, we have those as well. Any other questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer those questions through an email, through a phone call, through Google Hangouts, a video chat, Skype, whatever it might be. Whatever it is to help you, I'm here to do that. So we're going to move on now to making a rosary and what that looks like, and we'll go from there. Thanks for joining us on this rosary course. Stay tuned. God bless you.